Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Professor Choga. We want to go through the dissertation clinic. Why should it be called a clinic? Because we want to prepare to come up with a complete research. Those are the expected outcomes. We want to define the purpose of the dissertation, undertake a systematic research, and review the literature. We want to critically evaluate our research methods and strategies. And then we also want to analyze and relate the findings. At the end of the day, we compile the findings. And right at the end, we know we'll pass and get our certificates. Right. What does this mean? The clinic is saying. We want to look at the research and what is a research before we go on. It's not just a mere accumulation of facts and data. It's an exercise of information gathering and the fact finding, not gathering facts and data, but fact finding. But the starting point, ladies and gentlemen, is the problem. The research is about finding a solution on a given problem. So we want a confirmation validity of the solution of the problem. So what we are going to do is to come up with a solution of a problem, a real problem, not a fictitious problem. Right. What are the characteristics? We begin with a problem. Problem is the heart. It really demands the identification of the problem. And the problem is going to be stated very clearly. And it requires a plan and direction. And that direction is guided by our questions, hypotheses, and objectives. And the research deals with the facts and their meaning. If the meaning is not there, then it's not a research. Right, as I have already said, the problem is the heart of the research project or research dissertation. If you don't have a problem, then you have no research. First, see the problem in unwavering clarity, stated very clearly, precise, and in unmistakable terms. So it must be very clear. Come up with a very clear problem, a very clear, real problem. We want to concentrate more on the problem so that we understand where we are going. If these slides are coming out, you can easily see that the problem is highlighted in red. Again, the other point is, oh, these notes, you have them on my Vista. Under bus 526, if you are doing bus 526 or this 500, we have these notes there. What is the source of the problem? If that is the beginning point, if that is the starting point. So how do you identify the problem? Where is the source? Usually you want to say the area that interests you, your area of interest. You are doing masters, you have already completed your undergrad, and during all this time, you've got some areas of interest. Just to give an example, it could be marketing, it could be HR, it could be accounting, and so forth. So that's the area of interest. You must have an area of interest. So look at that area of interest and say, what is it that triggers my curiosity? What is it where I can raise questions? The questions without answers, because you have come up with the answers so that you say you have a research. The question without answers. So that's the problem. If it doesn't have answers, then it's a problem. If it has answers, then it's not a problem. All right? Now, these are some of the issues which we can try and avoid. We are just giving you as examples. These are non-researchable problems. How to get along with your in-laws. This is obvious. If you are having problems, there are people who can help you, your relatives. How to request a pay rise. Why should this be a problem? Because the procedures are well laid out. There are committees which are responsible for that. How to be successful. There are so many books. A lot has been written about that. So what more do you want to find out? So you try and avoid some of this because the answers are there. Researchable problem. Let me go back again and say your area of interest. What are you interested in? Visit the library, visit the internet. If you go to the Zoo library, you've got some dissertations which have been completed. Read the abstracts. At the end of each dissertation, the student really recommend some further studies in your area of interest. Go on the internet and find out what the other authors are saying about your area of interest. What are the problems which have not been solved? Or problems which have been solved, but in Zimbabwe, there's still a problem which don't have answers. So we must start with a very clear statement of the problem. Right. Researchable. Characteristics of researchable problem. Where you don't have to struggle. Sorry, where you have got to struggle and say, I don't have the answers. But when you struggle with that, I must have yet the answers are there, then it's not a problem. A problem with this got some answers, and the answer being yes or no. You usually ask some of your colleagues, those who have chosen topics related to their workplace, and at times we just ask, those questions which you've raised, don't you have the answers? And the answer is, I do hate the answers for some of them. But what we know is you have got the answers. So there is no problem. No. The problem must state the purpose of the research. It must be very clear. And anyone who reads that says, yes, this is a problem, which requires some investigation. There is a video on my Vista under those courses, even under this 500. Go and play that video. Go and play several times and answer the question, what are the major points raised there? The lady is talking about research proposal. What is she saying? Can you summarize what she is saying? Then you'll understand what a researchable problem is. Researchable proposal, sorry. Now, the starting point is the plan. Why should you start with a plan? Because you want to break that problem into different parts, in different tasks. So that you've got a right amount of, for each, right amount of effort or time for each. And then you create some deadlines. What is our plan now today? Today, our plan is this one. The structure of research proposal. What does it contain? It does contain the research topic. And the research topic is guided by the problem. It has got the introduction. It has got a background of the study, statement of the problem, purpose of the study, research questions, literature review, research methodology. These two subheadings, you have already done bars 5 to 6, 5 to 1, and 5 to 1 advanced research methods. You have covered this in detail. So I won't cover that in detail because you've got the knowledge already. Significance of the study, assumptions, definition, scope of the study, ethical considerations. Then you give a summary. But you also need a work plan. Right? From the proposal, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, so that we understand where we are going and we give the time. The budget, again, is also important. All right? The reference, we will look at that. The reference. I don't dare to say anything on the reference because you are now completing your degree. You know how to do the reference. All right. So let's start with the topic. The topic denotes the general area of the study. And then you have got, if you have got a problem, there are different scenarios where you've got the problem is already given, or you know the problem because you've identified it, right? But you have no idea what to research. But then if you don't have any idea of what to research, I've given you some ideas for how you can find out your area of interest, right? That which gives you the curiosity, that which requires some answers. Then you have got a problem. Then you can assess your topic. How do you assess the topic? Does it give you the professional significance? Your colleagues, your classmates, your workmates, what do they say about this? Why don't you consult and find out whether this topic is reasonable? Contribution of theory. Are you going to test the theory? Are you going to develop the theory? What is it which will come out from that topic, which will come out in the solution? Again, professional interest. Does it give you that value? Personal interest, yes, we say your area of interest, that which awakens your interest, that which awakens the interest of the community, that which awakens everyone's. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. Right. that which awakens everyone's interest. But again, career advancement. I know you are doing MBA. Why? Because you want to be promoted. Why? Because you want to be seen as someone. Because you want to proceed with your studies. And then the professional part. This research dissertation, you must be in a position to publish it. You must be in a position to come out with a number of publishable articles. That's the professional part. I'm sure you're interested in that. All right. What do you do? We don't have to waste much time on the research topic. But the advice I would give you is please read, and read. Go to the library, see other people's dissertations, go onto the internet and find out the articles. What are they saying about this problem which you have identified? Identification of problems should not be a big problem for you. If you move around in town, just move around in town. I've taken a bit of some weeks without going to town, but all the same, go to the banks and see what is there. Is that not a problem? People are hunting for cash, yet they've got swiping cards in their pockets. So where is the problem? That requires some solution, isn't it? Unless if you got the answers. So just read and consult. Find out what the other authors are doing and how they are doing it. Okay. Please read so that you get a suitable problem, so that you are able to refine it. Your topic, you don't have to worry, it's just a working topic. Because at the end of the day, your topic is then refined by what you have done to solve the problem. Now, we've left the topic. We're going to the introduction. What does it do? You're introducing your purpose. You're looking at your topic. You're looking at your problem. And then you are saying, just expand and tell us what to expect in the proposal. That is very important. That's the introduction. I don't have to waste time. You've been writing a lot of assignments, and those assignments have been introducing the assignment. This is what we're talking about. Introduce the proposal. Introduce your research. Introduce your topic. Introduce your problem, so that we know where we are going. All right. Now, this next stage is background of the study. What are we saying about the background of the study? It really presents the context of the study. I always ask just 3 questions and say, what happened? What happened where? What happened? Looking at your topic. There must be some background information about your problem there. Just say something about it. Where are we starting? We are starting at the background of that problem. If it is a case study, then we are starting at the background of that case study. But the background really widens up. You can start using the funnel approach. Start with the world at large. Then you come back to Africa. Then you come back nearer home, maybe South Africa. Then you come even home. You are now in Zimbabwe. And now you are looking at your case study. That's the background. And here it forces you to read. You read and find out what others were doing on this topic. Right. Explain the background and raise questions. What trends were happening? Old and new. That's the background. And this will be coming out from the well-established authors, or from the article, or from the library. What problems are there? Or before I come on to the what problems, what is currently happening to that problem? What is currently happening to this situation, if you want to get a solution, what is happening? When we explain that, you must be in a position to bring out the problem very clearly. Bring out that problem very clear on the current situation. If you have done that, then you are home and dry. Then that will lead us on to the statement of the problem. You have already explained what the problem is in the current situation. So statement of the problem should not be a big issue for you because the problem is there already. You've clarified the problem already in the background. So what you are saying is the statement of the problem must come out from the background. It must be clear. There must be that link from the background to the problem. That must flow. That gap must be clearly stated. This is a statement. And don't give us half a page. Don't give us 2 pages. We don't like that. It's just a statement. 2 or 3 sentences will be enough to clearly state what your problem is, because it's just a statement. Okay? And that has got to be very clear, as we have already said earlier. Let it be clear. Let the problem be clear. Please make the problem very clear. Right. Then the problem formulation. The words must show that there is a problem. They need to be sharp and definite. State in a complete grammatical sentence. We don't have to raise questions so that when anyone who doesn't understand your area of interest will just read and say, yes, this is a problem. State well so that anyone, anywhere, would understand and react to it and say, this is a problem which needs solution. So the problem features. I don't have to re-emphasize area of interest. It is significant. Doesn't have to be trivial. But you restrict it to the cost. Because financially, we are all down. And then the information availability. That should not be a big problem, because in the background you will have read about your topic, you will have read, and you know where you are going. You know the availability of that information. Plenty of it. Then the problem must offer a solution. The features of the problem. Then you say, no, the problem is there, and I'm sure if I do it how others have been doing it, I'll be able to solve my problem. Right. Here are some of the mistakes which you and me make when you are formulating a problem. You just choose a topic just to fill a gap, which has no interest, which is no one's interest. But no one is interested in. So why are you doing that? Then you might also choose a problem where you say, right, I just compare this and that, and then nothing comes out of it. Just comparing it, which shows nothing new, and then nothing completely, which is coming out of it. That's a mistake. Devising a problem where the answers are there. We said, please don't do that. We, the readers, we, the supervisors, want to know why and how. If the answer is yes or no, then the why and how will not come out. In other words, you don't have the research. Now, the next topic is the purpose of the study. Will it be difficult to come up with the purpose of the study when your problem is clear? This is the goal. This is the aim of the study. And below it, you are saying, these are the objectives. What is the purpose of those objectives? We said we want to solve the problem. If we are solving the problem, then the objectives are aimed at solving the problem. How do you solve the problem? State the objectives. The objectives will help you to come up with the solution. These are the objectives. Must be clear. Active sentence. Clear objectives demonstrate success. Must address the problem. Must ask yourself, am I addressing the problem using these objectives? If you are addressing the problem using the objectives, then you're in the right direction. But they need to be smart. Smart as you. You always go out to work with a tie on. This is what we want. You always go to work with matching dress, the dress matching with the shoes. That's smart. This is what we want. And the smart in this case, we are saying specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. This is an objective. Each objective must be assessed along this line. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it realistic? And what time? It must be within the time limit which you state. I don't have to waste much time on the smart objectives or so, but read about it and find out. You can also read these notes. You will understand what I'm talking about there. Right, then we go on to the questions. What are we saying? In general, the questions, we are just saying this. Research questions should be associated with the statement of the problem and generated from the objectives. So now you can easily see the link from the background, problem, objectives, and the questions. And these are the questions which you use to collect the data. The questions which guide you in the data analysis. They must focus on the problem. If your objectives are focusing on the problem and you generate your questions from the objectives, then you're in the right direction. Questions will guide data collection and analysis. When you break those questions into questionnaires, then you are going to a solution of the problem. Then the other issue is the research hypothesis. Now, I don't have to repeat this. You have done this, but I mean, bus 521, and all these are there, the hypothesis. And the hypothesis, again, you also did it in the bus 504, statistics for managers. If you want to go along this line, which is the quantitative way, go back and find out how to formulate the hypothesis. Okay? But still, the hypothesis must address the problem. It must be guided by the problem so that you come up with the correct hypothesis. So, as I said, you have done bus 52, 521. So I don't have to waste time on this so that we cut our presentation. The null hypothesis, you know what it means. The alternative hypothesis, you know what that means, and how to measure that. All right. If results are not significant, then accept the null hypothesis, or otherwise reject it and accept the alternative hypothesis. That just a reminder, because you know that already. Now, literature review. You've done that already, and I don't have to waste my time on this. But all the same, the literature review, what is it guided by? Problem. Your literature review should be about the problem. Usually we say the literature review are guided by these questions. the questions which originated from the objectives. The objectives which are addressing the problem. So your subheadings must come up from the research questions. Why? Because you want to address the problem. Because you want to confirm that is really a problem. And being a problem, we want a solution at the end of the day. That's the literature review. You have done it already. So I don't have to waste time on this. On the literature review, as I said, confirm that there is a problem. Confirm that there is a problem. I mean, a gap. It's also important to find out the methods which are used by other authors so that you can adapt those and use them. Sorry, adopt those and use them in your research. But at the same time, you must avoid plagiarism. I would just remind you that now the university have got a plagiarism software which can easily see that you are just copying and pasting. Copying and pasting. Someone has said this, so this must apply. Does it apply to your problem? That's something else. All right? Now, the theoretical framework. I'm sure I've come across it. If you've done it already, the theoretical framework. There are many theories. And you want to say, can I take this theory and use it to solve my problem? Yes, it must help you in solving the problem. And it does relate to your topic. It does relate to your problem. Then that's the theoretical framework. Read it and find out how you can apply it and find out its weaknesses. And if you there's some weaknesses in it, then the better. Those are the weaknesses which you want to address. And from those weaknesses, if you want to go the quantitative, then generate the hypothesis from there. Conceptual framework. There are two ways. The weaknesses which you've identified in the theoretical framework, you say, right, now I want to develop this concept. This is a new concept, but it's still related to that theory. I want to expand it, but there is this weakness which I want to develop, and the concept, the conceptual framework which I want is this one. As I said, I don't want to waste time on this because you have done a literature review in Numbers 521. Again, conceptual framework. You can also start with a concept, a new concept, which has no relationship, any theoretical framework. Usually, this is from the qualitative methodology. Then you can come up with a conceptual framework, a new concept. At the end of the day, you want to say, the theory I've come up with is this one, a new theory, where some other researchers will come in. We are talking of 5.0. Yeah. This is the 5.0. This is the new theory which has come up with. So let's test it and see whether it works. So that's the concept. Again, if I could just remind you, there is an article on my Vista which shows very clearly the difference between conceptual framework and theoretical framework. Read that article and understand it so that you know the difference. The difference is very important. Otherwise, you might end up mixing the two. This is another way of just presenting. Right? You have got theory A, theory B, and you've got your research topic. But from your research topic, these two theories do apply. Then you've got the research questions there. And from those research questions, you're saying, no. I think the concept I want to develop so that this will help me in solving my problem. Then you've got a new concept, conceptual framework. Okay, That's the importance of conceptual framework. You can read it and understand it. Even that article again will tell you a lot about it. Benefits of literature review, as I said, you did this last semester, so you understand what we are talking about here. If you don't, go back to that module and read it again, then you understand it. Research methodology. Again, you've got a chapter of research methodology in bars 521. So again, I don't have to waste much time on this because it really talks about qualitative, quantitative, and a mixed research methodology. Okay. Read about it. And for these two topics, literature review and research methodology, you have got some additional notes on my Vista. Go and read those notes. They will help you. I'm sure I read them last time. So it's the same notes. In other words, that verse 521, you are now just turning that one into practice. It's now a practical exercise of practicing what you've learned already. Okay? Triangulation, it's related to mixed research methodology. All right. Data collection, instruments, those are the instruments. And I'm sure you also read about them a lot in that module. Again, here, as I said, I don't want to waste my time on this. The data collection methods, you know them already, right? And then the designs, you know them already. But there are also designs for mixed. These are not in these notes, but there are articles which we have uploaded on my Vista, which do explain the research designs of mixed approach. Read them. If you are going to use a mixed approach, it's very important that you read those articles on my Vista. Okay? Significance of the study. Why should it be significant? Why do you bother to conduct this study? Come up with a dissertation. It must be significant. But to whom? There are many ways of showing the significance. Problem affecting the companies and people. In other words, the organizations and the Zimbabwean community, the government. Significance of this study. In other words, you want to come up with a new theory, or you want to test that theory. Is the research important? Not only to you, because it gives you some research skills, but also to other researchers. Because they've come up with a new theoretical framework. Then that is important. And then the new knowledge you should have brought in. Then that's important. Research methodology. Are you coming up with a new research methodology? Then that is significant. Maybe you come up with a different methodology, and then we'll be proud of you. Assumptions. These are statements that cannot be verified. For example, the bias. Can you verify that? These have got a practical and theoretical implications to your study, but they do influence your research findings, the assumptions. What are the assumptions? Bring them clearly in the state. These are the assumptions which I think will affect my findings. Definition of terms. Don't just heap the definition of terms and say, at least I've covered this section. What are we saying? These are terms which you think they might be misinterpreted. These are terms which you are using in a different way, although they are known, But in this case, you are using them in a different way so that the reader can understand why have you used this term here, define it, so that the reader can understand why you've used it there. But then you apply it consistently throughout. The terms must be relevant, relatively new, to avoid ambiguous. You want to use the term in a special way. So just define it so that the reader can understand, so that the supervisor can understand. Right. Limitations. What are the limitations? There are general limitations. Yes, we'll accept that. But our question is, during your study, what were your limitations? Specifically to your study. Take note of those limitations and say, these were the limitations. If these were the limitations, how did you solve them? Give us the solution so that we understand, yes, these were the limitations, but at least you tried to solve them. Right. Delimitations. This gives us the scope of the study, the boundaries of the study. Where are you coming from? Where are you ending? What is the boundary in terms of time or in terms of years? This is concerned with the nature of the sample, the nature of the population. If it is a case study, which departments, which people are you going to consider? Is it from the shop floor to the director? Which sections are you going to fill in? Which part of the population? And what type of the sample? Those are the boundaries. What are the concerns of the study? How far does it go in treating this given issue? How far in terms of spreading, in terms of time, and so on, because you are setting the boundaries of the study. Ethical considerations. Again, this is not something which we need to waste time on, because you did it last semester. Now you are applying it. How are you going to apply these ethical considerations? How? How are you going to treat the participants? Did you get approval? It's important. Taking care of their privacy, confidentiality, and professional conduct. That is very important. Then at the end, you give a summary. What are we saying when we are summarizing? Don't repeat the introduction. Here we are saying, highlight the important issues in this proposal. What were the important issues which you want the reader to take note of? That these are important issues. We can't avoid them. So that's the summary. Okay? Now we're almost there. The work plan. You can take that format or you have a different format. But what is important to us is that we want a work plan which shows where we are going, where we are starting, where we are going. But what guides you is the submission date. Find out from your regional office. The budget, work out the budget and say this will be the cost. The references is the normal way, you know how to do it, right? But here are some of the issues which are very important. The professional approach to research. As a student, you've got some responsibilities. We as supervisors, we've got some responsibilities. For a student, good timekeeping. You are given a supervisor, you give him a proposal, and that's it. You go away. At the end of the day, you are coming up with a completed document. Can I point out? And I really point out that there is a progress report form at the region. I think on my visa is there again. Download that because that will guide. Research is done step by step. If you just come back with a completed document, then that's your funeral. The supervisor will not sign it. The supervisor will say, yes, I just saw you, you gave me the proposal and they went away, so I have nothing to write. So it's chapter after chapter. Timekeeping. Do what your supervisor says. Observing the deadlines. Reading and responding to the communication. Reading and responding to the communication. It's important. Taking responsibility for own skills and career development. That's your career development. It's not the supervisor's career development. Right. Making yourself familiar with such procedures. Develop appropriate plan. We've already said we need the work plan because that should be appropriate. Take initiative to raise concerns. We are interested. If you have problems, let us know. Comply with the requirements of intellectual. Avoid stealing other people's material. Plagiarism. Make time to discuss with your supervisor. Still maintain the regular contact with your supervisor. Attend meetings, be it visual, be it what, right? Phoning and things like that. Reflect and respond to the feedback. Sign the supervisory form after each stage. That's the form I was talking about. Comply with all final submission requirements. And so no. You've got the time. I know you want to give time as a limitation and we won't accept it. Because now the research is done in a full year. It's not a semester, but a full year. Yeah? But the supervisor, he or she has got also responsibility. The supervisor will give you guidance on the literature resources, research techniques and methodologies. You are guided. Academic honesty. You are guided by the supervisor. That brings me to this example. I got a student I'm supervising. Submitted the material, I gave my comments, and then she brought back contradicting my advice, which I had given him or her. What do you want me to do with this? Right. Then I will say, right, I think you know better than me. So go ahead and do it. By at the end of the day, that supervisory form will not be signed. So who is going to be the loser? Because no one tries out nausea. Plagiarism. Please don't steal other people's materials. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Don't steal other people's materials. Don't waste the time. All right. We don't want to waste the time. You know how to avoid it. You are now completing an MBA, and completing an MBA, you know how to avoid that. Paraphrasing the material. Paraphrasing the material. Saying, this applies to my situation, but acknowledge the author, which is very important. Acknowledge the author. They also monitor progress, being accessible, very accessible. Emphasize the importance of timely submission. If you have problems with accessibility, then you've got a regional representative, regional lecturer who can assist you in these issues. Request for chapter drafts. We do request for chapter drafts, not even sections of the chapters. Reading and commenting on submitted work. Accept the advice of the supervisor. Approve the final submission. So that's the responsibility. These are the forms on my Vista, which you can download. Agreed meeting schedule, supervision record, ethics and the discussion agreement, example access letter, research agreement, participant agreement form, because we talked of ethical consideration. This is important. Right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Our discussion ends here. If you have any problems, you can always go to your regional coordinator, or you can always phone me. I'm based at Michael House, and the regional coordinators can also give you my number. As I said, this presentation, the notes themselves are on my Vista, so you won't have any problem. I hope this will assist in coming up with a proposal. Thank you so much.